Hello, Frantz Kantor, cartoonist, illustrator, tune talker. Here again, news anchor. Right, I'm doing another caricature, and this is going to be interesting because I love this guy. You probably can't tell from this thumbnail, but this is the thumbnail that I'm working from. It's a bit bigger than the thumbnail, isn't it? So what I usually do is I work out these little thumbnail ideas, and I'm just trying. Sometimes I get lucky, sometimes not, depending on what my impressions are, my first impressions of the face, of the expression and the character, etc. So today I am doing this fellow. I'm doing the Anchorman. Hang on a sec. So this, all right, Anchorman, Ron Burgundy, and he's really important, actually. It's really because the show is there's about 3 shows of this. There's 3 movies. There's the Anchorman. It's like a series. There's the Anchorman, and there's Wake Up Ron Burgundy, and there's Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues. This is the fellow we're doing, of course, is Will Ferrell, the comedian from Saturday Night Live. This is a really cool, clear shot. I really like that. It's very expressive of his face, so we're going to do that. This is him in the movie Anchorman 2 with Victoria Corningstone. Of course, it's Christina Applegate. She's also a great comedian. This is with the news anchor team. There's Brian Fantana, there's Brick. Steve Carell is Brick. Brian Fantana is Paul Rudd. So he's incredibly, this is incredibly funny and iconic, and it's a send-up of all, like, historic news teams. So prevalent in our lives, isn't it? Morning news, midday news, afternoon news, late night news, cable news, channel news, YouTube news, news. It's very, very funny. So it's like a caricature, like all good caricatures. It has an element of truth to it. So the character is based on people that are quite recognizable in the landscape. The news landscape is his 70s mustache. Really cool expressions. So this is quite fun assignment, really. A little fun, not assignment, it's just a fun little reverie. There's Christina, there he is. The Channel 4 News. Okay. Alright, go back to our picture and we'll start talking about the process itself. Alright, here we go. So, I've got this, I'm not using that shape. I've got this sort of weird beanbag type of shape, like this, that I want to sort of work with. I quite like this bean shape. It's really, really cool because it's got this beautiful sense of gesture, this sort of flow down here. I quite like that. Lighting wise, we're probably going to light it from it's got quite even lighting, so we can really pick our lights, but I'll probably light it from the left hand side. And I want to focus on the eyes, nose and mouth, which is for some sort of like a mask area, really. So this is what I'm going to, this is going to help me establish a likeness, this area, this zone of influence. And that's what I'm going to be looking for. Alright, so let's go. I've taken the opportunity to take that thumbnail and draw it up bigger on toned paper, and I'm using a mixture of brown pencils, like this is, I think, terracotta. This is a Prismacolor, which is a soft color lead. This is a polychroma, which is a black, which is slightly harder. This is another Prismacolor. This is a white. So a combination of white, brown, and black pencils will give me a really nice sculptural approach to drawing. Okay. All right. So actually, let's try to narrow in. I usually start, not exclusively, but usually I like to start with the eyes. So caricature is a matter of, for me at least, a matter of exaggeration. So you're exaggerating certain features. And simplification. And it's really like the combination of those two things. So simplification, like here, you're thinking of the general shape of a bean, right? That's really cool. This is simplifying that shape. An impression that I get from looking at the photograph is that this is relevant to the likeness, or what I want to do. This is something that I want to do. So I simplified it in terms of shape, but I also need to exaggerate. So I need to exaggerate proportions. So I'm moving things around. Proportions to exaggerate our eyes. We're focusing, remember, on the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So the relationship between these elements are important to keep in mind. So even though you're changing the sizes, like the eyes you're making smaller, the nose a bit bigger, the mouth a bit bigger, right? So you're changing proportions based on a gut feeling, on an impression, really, of what's important. And that's also like most people's eyes are pretty, level, aren't they? And then some people's eyes are inverted, like that. In this case, Will's eyes are inverted, and then some people's eyes are everted. Right? So that's just more or less an impression. It could be a very subtle thing, but the impression is strong enough for you to think of it being a feature, something that you can highlight, that you can play with and draw and maybe exaggerate if you feel up to it. So every time you do a caricature of Will Ferrell, you'll probably find different aspects to fixate on. And that's important because, people's attitudes change, people's ideas change. You may think something is important today, and then, tomorrow it's not. Like the nose might be, you could put this sort of exaggerated bump in the nose, which I can see, but not very strong. I'm exaggerating these these curves here from the reference, from the photo. So in another photograph, you may not see that. It may not be that clear. So the nose would change shape based on, the new frame of reference. So it's not something that's cut in stone. It's something that can be, fairly flexible, I think. The other thing to remember when you're drawing a face, even a caricature, is that you need to think about the anatomy. So, the structure of the eyes, also textures. So, the eyebrows have hair in a certain pattern, going in a certain direction, and you need to respect that. You need to refer to that in the drawing, and don't rush it, and don't take any shortcuts unless you want to. Unless, that's the thing about cartoons and caricatures. Sometimes, simplification is in order, but it's really up to you. It's obviously that would make it a different emphasis on something else. Okay. So I'm just really articulating some of these lines, which I quite like, that I laid down with the brown pencil very quickly from the thumbnail. Just sort of strengthening them. Like if you get an impression of this curvature, which isn't in the photograph, but it kind of feels like it would be there. Again, these are just impressions that you get, that you feel that you can play with, right? So as long as you have that sense of play, nothing can go wrong. Well, everything can go wrong. So the film Anchorman was really, I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. The character's brilliant. Actually, all the characters are fantastic. There's some fantastic quotes in there. Like Brian Fantana has one where he's talking about a technique using is it cougar or something, an aftershave anyway, to attract women. And statistics say that it works 60% of 60% of the time. It works every time, which is crazy. And then there's Brick, who says, "I love lamp," So some really cool. You have to sort of watch the scenes, I guess, to get the context of all of these things. But they're very, very cool. And that, the walk-ons, the celebrity walk-ons, the guest spots, the cameos are really cool. So I look at little wrinkles in the chin and things, and try to make sense of them. Will Ferrell is kind of like a chameleon in a way. He has an incredible sense of timing, and his caricatures of people, his impersonations of people, they're not like Frank Gorshin style, accuracy. They're not that accurate in terms of an impression, but as an impressionist, but believability and I think commitment to the jokes or to the personalities is 1,000%, and that's really what makes it work. He has a sense of outrageous timing that uncannily, and a great sense of the surreal. So surreal, if you're a fan of the Three Stooges or even Monty Python, the sense of out of place surreal quality of comedy is really fun. So there is definitely that. But there's also a beautiful sense of the ridiculous of the normal, of the mundane, and that's kind of like his calling card, because his characters have an incredible sense of reality to them. They just look and feel legitimate. They look and feel like they're real, even though they're not actual caricatures or impersonations. They feel like they are. And it's because of his sense of exaggeration and commitment to the character. He creates really endearing characters, and very, very memorable. It's almost like in terms of comedy, can be you can't really compare him to anyone, because he's sort of out there breaking new ground in a way. If I was to compare him to anyone, it would probably be someone like Sid Caesar, who again, I was a latecomer to his comedy. I didn't grow up in America, so I'm not aware of him so much. But he's incredibly effective physical comedy and personalities. Whatever personality he creates, he commits 1,000% to it. So that's what Will Ferrell's taught me. It's like what makes his characters work is his commitment to them. So he makes them real, makes them believable, because his belief in them is so strong. I'm going to try and make this like an iconic leather jacket if I can. Okay, so far so good. We've got the mustache happening. Let's get into the prize of the haircut. See what we can do. What mischief we can make. So it's sort of like a butt of many jokes, his hair, it's sort of like a gravity-defying curve and overhang, I guess. This is the perfect coiffured male haircut from that era. You either had this incredible gravity-defying architectural wonder, or you had like a afro, or teased curls or something. So it features a great deal in his films. So the other characters they're all foils for his humor, his character, except for Veronica Corningstone. So she's like the female news anchor. So the whole thing was about feminism and female use anchors taking the anchor spots. So it had a sort of a place in time. It was sort of it had, I guess, social comment. But some of the best humour is based on social comment. And sometimes even really strong issues. Okay. Let's see what we can do with this. Pencil's really good with describing hair. It just does it really well. So all of the strands can be very quickly described with a pencil stroke, like so. And the texture, etc. The light and dark elements, the soft parts and the hard parts, the shadows. Cool. Might actually warm that up a little bit with the brown. Because the black pencil against the grey paper, it does tend to be a little bit stark. Okay, that'll do. All right. So with the white pencil, you're able to get areas of, shine, reflection, highlights in there, and it stands out against the grey paper quite nicely. And it's like using your cross-hatching sort of effect. The harder you press, of course, the stronger it becomes, the highlights become. I'm also going to probably be using a white pen. I'll show you the effect of that. So that's really effective for catching the hard, reflections in the eyes and lips, etc. It's quite nice. Might leave that one. Okay. All right. So now we're building up a little bit of highlights. So that's too much black pencil on the grey paper. I might like to warm this area up a little bit with the brown pencil. All right. So again, the harder you press, the darker it becomes. You can also use a black brush pen or black pen or something to make it even stronger. So what I'm doing is over the brown pencil, of course, I'm just establishing a more contrasty shade, a more contrasting tone, so making things stand out a little better. The outline and the nose, I've put a heavier pencil line in, which I'll probably also go over with a black brush. Okay. What else? Oh, I may as well clean up the ribbon while I'm down here. The little name tag area. Cool. There you go. So use the black pencil to clarify. The brown pencil, you use it to construct the basic forms and press a little bit darker with some darker brown. But then, of course, the black pencil just gives you more emphasis, a little bit strengthens those tones that you're establishing. Alright, so let's see if we can put some of that shadow back in. We're trying to refer to the shadow coming in, the light coming in from the top right, I think. Oh, we were going to do it on the top left. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We'll do it this way because the light's pretty even, actually. So I'm just sort of picking my fights here. Lovely. Alright, so now back into the white pencil. So we need to bring in areas of shine. Of course, the texture of the skin is different all over the face. Some areas are shiny, extra shiny, some areas are less so. There's a general, I'm looking at the reference and seeing where the light is hitting the form, and I'm trying to refer to that. Actually, that brown pencil line is going to undermine that a little bit. Okay, that'll do. That's good. Sometimes you have to knock the brown back a little bit. Back, I say. Really interesting. Wasn't sure whether I was mucking around with this thumbnail when I was drawing, trying to find his face, because there's nothing in my head, right? Try to imagine that. I know there's nothing, literally nothing. I have no idea what or how it will come to pass until I hit the paper with the pencil, and then I can see relationships and slowly build them, one stroke at a time, try to find forms and some form of synergy, some form of sympathetic shapes and relationships, etc., with all of these different forms, all of these different elements. You can see here the whites picking up some of the black pencil. We'll fix that with the white pen, which I've just gotten out of the box, and that's going to give us a little bit of help. So what am I doing with the white pencil? I'm trying to establish some much needed highlight areas, which will hopefully give me a good indication of form. I like it when the white the white pencil lies next to something dark, like a line, shadow, or an outline, or something, mustache line, anything, because the contrast is really quite interesting. Alright, so I'm going to put in a artificial light coming in, a rim light, which is going to affect the edges of certain shapes here, the head and the nose, etc. The reason why I'm doing that is to artificially give it a sense of three-dimensional properties, three-dimensional form. So It's just putting the highlights in the center of the form just doesn't really answer that problem of a three-dimensional drawing. So sometimes you have to help it along. That's good. Fascinating face, this guy. Really, it's like a pudding. Anything can happen. You can assume, I mean, it's still pudding, but it can assume so many different attitudes. And each one is like, 1000% believable. Again, it's his commitment to those characters, to those concepts that make it work. And some of them are, some of the characters that he does are like really, then once you think, well, he hasn't thought that out very well, and then you see the way that he totally commits to it, and it's like, well, my God, he has thought it out really well. It's worked out so well. And, watching him work, watching his work on film, a lot of it is ad-lib. So it's like energy from the spur of the moment, He had a famous line in Network News where he's telling Veronica Corningstone about the meaning of the name San Diego, where the show is, where the movie's set. Channel 4 News San Diego. And he's explaining, well, the name comes from, what is it said? He said it was, it was discovered by the Germans in 1904 and translates to the English San Diego, a whale's vagina, which is it's just sort of making it up. But again, it's like that commitment that Will Ferrell has to a lot of the roles. They're not really scripted to the nth degree. They're kind of outlined, I guess, but the rest is the energy from the spur of the moment that comes from the awkwardness, I guess, of having to make things up on the moment. Certainly not everybody can do that, and but he does it really well. I think also, having that ability would energize everybody else. So everyone else would sort of feel, well, if he goes off script, I'll go off script. And then you get something that is like really reactive. So, it's dangerous in the point where you could crack everybody up. But again, that freshness might be worth it. It might be worth the risk. Some of Mel Brooks' Get Smart gags were, they're sort of broadly written, but I think they're improved upon in the live performance, and I think that's thinking about Young Frankenstein, for example, there's a lot of ad-lib elements to that. Okay, so here we go. Now, he's got very light eyes, so I've got to be very careful. I don't want to outline the irises, but I do want to help make those little dot pupils work. Maybe help out with some of the innocent looking eyelashes which he's got here. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay. I like lamp. I like. I was going to say I like lamp. I like sharp and curves in combination. They work like a melody. There's certain syncopation with these elements, these curves and the dynamics, and the way that they work both together and in contrast with other shapes. So like angles, sharp angles and points, together with soft curves, tend to give a sense of variety. And it's pleasant to do, and I think it's pleasant for me anyway to look at. So I don't know if you get the same feeling that I do. I actually look at other artists' work and I see certain shapes and things which are pleasant, and I sometimes remark on that. I said, that's a nice curve, that's a nice line, I like that. I can sink my teeth into it. It sort of becomes important to me when I look at the drawing or the illustration. Okay, so everything has a certain relevance to it, hasn't it? That's quite nice. I quite like that. I'm getting the details in the eyes. You see, like moving all of the elements around and making them bigger or smaller, doesn't destroy the details that you can put in. So, the simplification or the exaggeration of the forms is really the start of the drawing, the dialogue that you have with the drawing. So it's both relevant to the likeness and the other elements, which could be the expression, the personality of the subject as well. So that's quite good. I think let's try to get some. I might make just thinking, what I might do is I might make this background white, which I seldom do that. Let's try to get some harder edges in here though before we decide. So what I'm talking about is this negative space. So you can have, I'm thinking it could be white, but it would work just as well black, I think too. Cool. So this is a paint marker, and it's like the point version of the Posca, but it's got a brush tip, which means it can feather. You can feather it, so you can have thick and thin properties quite easily. Okay. Maybe I won't do the white because I think it might be too similar to the tone. Alright, so the other thing I could use is black. So I've got a black Posca. Where else? I've got some more black Poscas somewhere. This one. This is a nice one. The beauty about black Poscas is they dry very, very flat. So I'm going to come right up real close to the line work that I've gotten here, but I'm staying away from them because I'm going to use the grey as a sort of a halo around the form, so I don't lose the linear quality of the outline. I lost a little bit on the cheek. I'll put it back in a minute. It's nice, these Poscas, because they're very strong and opaque, and they dry flat, and they don't go through the paper, unlike most spirit-based markers, alcohol-based markers, which will just destroy the paper underneath. So you have to keep an eye on it and put barriers in and stuff, barrier paper. Poscas are very versatile. I just saw there's a film out of Jazza painting with a Posca on his door. You can draw. I think you can draw on glass with these too. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna fill out all this stuff with the thicker marker, thicker Posca, and that's gonna make it really nice and strong. There we go, cool. I'm enjoying this, I really enjoy this character, and I think we've got a good effect happening here. Alright, let's go. Let's have a look. R-O-N-B-U-R, I'm spelling it out. Burgundy. Ron Burgundy, which is Will Ferrell's character on Anchorman. And let's try to fix up that cheek with a nice sharp repair job over here. Just lost that halo a bit. Ooh. See, you've got to be careful with these pencils. They're quite fragile, soft, prismatic colours. That's actually why I've got this electric sharpener. Alright. Okay, there you go. So that's Ron Burgundy, and that's Will Ferrell. Let's have a look at the reference that I got from. It's quite iconic, isn't it? That's a typical expression. So you can see there I've got those inverted eyes that point down towards the center of the nose. The nose is very strong. The general shape of the face is quite even, but I've been able to pull out this incredible bean shape. Just an impression, really. It's really based on that. That's all it is. It could be anything. It could have actually ended up quite different. But I'm happy with that because, you know, the hair, I've built up the hair at the front and the back. And that's kind of a nice balancing act, you know, with this tipping forward and back of this form. And using the imposition of this negative space to lock the character, the head, in place. All right, so that's him. That's Ron Burgundy. Let's leave you with some quotes. So don't act like you're not impressed. I'm a glass case of emotion. And Ron Burgundy, the film starts out, he has a voice that could make a wolverine purr. And of course, it's one of my favourite quotes is Scotchy Scotch Scotch, which is actually made into an ice cream. So there you go. And this is one of, you know, many caricatures. Got a lot of caricatures to go with. So, you know, one day I'll have many leather-bound books. And my apartment will smell of mahogany, which is another quote. All right, so enough quotes. This is Ron Burgundy. This is Frantz Kantor, and I will catch you on the flip side.